Sunday night. Let me just get this set up over here. Clicking back here. Okay, just bear with me 1 second. I want to make sure we have the volume down so we can talk without any feedback at all. All right, looks like we have a couple of people here already. We have Bajan Leggett. We have Lon here. We have Gerald here. Bob T. Welcome, everybody. John A. Clark. Welcome. All right, we have a couple things that will just bear with me 1 second. We're just going to get a couple things going here. And this way I can see what's going on. Well, we got a couple of people clicking on. I guess everybody got my notice that that we're getting started here today. All right, a couple things we're going to talk about today. I know last week we talked about my days at the gas station and all of the stuff that went on during the gas station days. I know I told you I was going to, and I will do this too. I know we talked about the problems we had during the gas station days and all the, it looks very easy. Everybody thinks being in business is a very simple, easy thing. Being in business is probably one of the most difficult things that you can imagine. A lot of people think that that working for yourself, you can come and go and do whatever you please. In the reality, it's not like that, which we're going to talk about in just a little bit here as well. But we will get back to that. I just want to talk about last week's question about the what U.S. production car had the quickest 0 to 60 time. And remember, we talked about that, and we thought that it was not really very accurate because it didn't give a specific time frame. And it was a 62 Chevy Impala SS with the 409. That's where we left off. I have a couple of other things we're going to talk about here today. I do have one over here, and we're going to talk about later on. We'll get back to that. But I know I told you we were going to continue with the gas station stories, and I think the one that I was up to, actually, I did jot it down here so I wouldn't forget. Oh, okay. This is the one that I was up to. This was it was probably, I don't know, later on in the evening. It was dark out already. I get a phone call from the police department saying that they were arresting my gas station attendant. And it's like, well, why are you arresting my gas station attendant? What did he do? And he says, well, what happens is an off-duty police officer pulled into my station. Now I had, when you look in the front office of my building, it had these floor-to-ceiling windows. You had no privacy in that office whatsoever. It was all open. That's the way it was back in the day, and it's like that still in some stations today. But it had a window from the ceiling to the floor, and there was a small little kiosk inside there. There was some chairs and some office furniture and stuff like that, but nothing really crazy. What happened is a person pulls in to get gas outside the gas station. He pulls up right in front of the window. My guy is inside the office area, right at this podium or this kiosk, and he's doing something. The car pulls up. He goes outside. He puts the gas pump in the car. He goes back inside, and the guy in the car looks in, and he sees my guy doing lines of coke on the kiosk, which is now a kiosk. You stand in front of it, so it's at a pretty good height. So the guy looks in. He sees my guy doing lines of coke there, being an off-duty policeman, and I have nothing to say bad about any policeman or anything like that. He was doing his job, and they were actually very nice to me about it. He walks in there, he catches the guy doing lines of coke on the desk over there. So the police come down, they called me up and they said, listen, Jim, he said, you got 15 minutes to get down here. We're arresting your guy. We're going to take him in because he was doing coke in the place, and he found the coke in his pockets and all this kind of crap. And so anyhow, they were really good about that. I go down there and I take the money and everything. And then the kid leaves. Needless to say, he gets arrested. What happened to him? I have no idea, because at that point he was gone. I got rid of him. I wouldn't even take him back. But as it turns out, I don't know who he knew or what was going on exactly, but he wound up probably in like a rehab or something like that. And he pretty much got away with it. Well, years later, I find out that this same guy who was doing lines of coke on my desk with a policeman standing right there looking at him, wound up becoming a police officer. How he did that, I have no idea, but somehow he was able to get through somehow, and wound up being a police officer and wound up retiring from the police force. Put his whole time in and retired there. That was the one. Now, I got to tell you, last year we talked, that was the one that we talked about there. I did make a note about another one I wanted to talk to you about. This one, and I got a lot of people sending me emails guessing what happened. Remember I told you about the guy who worked for me, the kid who worked for me, and he says to me, actually another one just popped into my head too, I'm going to tell you about as well. So I don't forget it. Okay. Well, what happened is getting somebody to pump gas who's not going to steal your blind or create an issue with you with customers or whatever is very difficult. So I had this, I had these people come in and I interviewed them for the job, and I saw this one kid comes in and I'm talking to him, and his father is a pastor of some church. So I figured, well, how bad can a pastor's son be? So I hired the guy, and probably, I don't know, 3-4 weeks he works for me, no problem. Everything is going okay. I come in on Monday morning. This is Sunday shift now. I come in Monday. They locked up the shop and everything. I go in and I open up the safe in the morning. Now the safe in the floor was actually, it was a 2-level safe. It was a big, round, solid steel piece on the top like this. It was that thick of steel, and on the top of it, you needed one key to get into that safe. The only one that had the key was me. Nobody else had that key. It was just me who had the key. So, I figured, sorry, I just see a lot of chat going on the side here. We'll get back to this in just a minute. But what happens is, I'm thinking to myself, how the heck does this? I open up my safe and there's nothing in it. Now, when my guys throw the money in the safe, they throw it in, they put it into an envelope. They wrote their name on the envelope and they threw it inside the safe. Now, there was an AM shift and a PM shift. The AM shift, he threw his money inside the safe. The PM shift supposedly threw his money in the safe. When I come in on Monday morning and I look at it, there's nothing in the safe, totally empty. So I know what happened. It had to be the kid that was working for me, because he had closed up at the end of the night. There was no signs of break-ins or anything like that. So I go call the kid's house and everything, and he don't answer the phone. So I decided it was going to be me and another person I know. We went down there to go to his house to have a discussion with him. So we go there, and I go, and it's not a very desirable neighborhood that he lived in, but it didn't matter. We're just going to go there just to talk to him. So we go down there, and we go knock on his door, and he don't answer the phone. I don't answer the phone. He don't answer the door, nothing like that. So I'm knocking and knocking and knocking and knocking. All of a sudden, the kid that worked for me comes to the door. I said to him, come outside. I said, I want to talk to you. He comes out and we talk and everything. And I said, so listen, I said, I know you stole the money. I said, before this gets all crazy and out of hand, I'm going to call the police, and you're going to wind up with a criminal record and all this kind of stuff and everything. And he says, listen, he says, I know I screwed up. He says, let me go inside. Let me talk to my parents, and I'll come right back. Okay. He goes inside. We're hanging out there waiting and waiting and waiting. He comes out. Now he comes out of the place and he says to me, my mother's so upset that I did this. She can't even face you now. She's so angry at me. My father is so upset too, but they said that, if I pay the money back, will you not press charges? I said, listen, give me the money back. Obviously you're fired, but give me the money back. And that's it. I just walk out of here and we won't go any further with it. He comes back. He says, he goes inside, talks to his mother, comes back out. He says, I don't have the money. He said, I spent the money yesterday and drugs and this, that, and the other thing. He said, but my mother is very upset and she wants to give me a check to pay for the money. I said, whatever. So just write the check out, give me the check, and that's it. I take the check, I deposit the check. A little while goes back. I get the check back in the mail. The check comes back from an account. It was a stolen check. As it turned, long story short, I did get the money back. The father came down. I talked to the father. I talked to the mother. What happened is he stole the money from my safe. He actually told me the way he did is he took a hanger and he straightened out a hanger and he was fishing through the slot in the top of the safe and pulled out each one of the envelopes that was inside there. There must have been 30 or 40 envelopes inside there, and he pulled every one of them out, didn't rip anything, didn't leave any pieces of paper in there or anything, got everything out. So that's how he got it out. With a hanger, he pulled everything out. So the father says to me, I talked to the father and everything. And it turned out the son, actually, what happened is he stole a check from the mother. The account was actually closed down. So he stole the check from the mother. He stole the money from me. And that was what happened with that. But the long story short, the father did say to me, if you don't press charges on my son, I will, pay you back the money. And this time, of course, I didn't take a check. He paid me cash. And that was the last I ever saw of him. That was the one where it was the preacher's son that actually robbed me. And so now I'm thinking, who am I going to hire now? This is, you never know who comes in the door, But anyhow, this one kid comes in, and I'm talking to him, and he says to me, I'm talking to him. He's a high school age kid, which is pretty much who pumps the gas for you, the high school age kids. He comes in and we're talking and everything. And I said, I'm going to give him a shot. I said, his father's a police officer. So, how bad can the kid be? Right? All right. So a little while goes by. The kid works for me for a while. And like I said, I'm not ignoring this. We're going to come back to this. But this is the last story about being robbed. And then we're going to get over to this over here. We'll talk about what people have to talk about. So this kid's working here a little while, right? And you remember what I told you about that kiosk in the front office, right? The kiosk is probably about maybe 4 feet high, 3.5 feet high, something like about 4 feet probably. I come in on a Monday morning. Was it a Monday? Whatever. No, it wasn't. It was a Saturday, actually. So I come in Sunday morning. I walk in Sunday morning to open the place up. And as soon as I walk in, I walk in the office and I could tell that something's wrong because it was a drop ceiling in the front office, and the tile in the top of the drop ceiling was slightly crooked, and I can see on the floor like the powdery stuff from the tile. I knew right away what he did. What happened is he stood on the desk, the kiosk, he pushed the tile up, he went up into the drop ceiling and down into my private office. And he went into my private office, and I opened up my door in my private office, and sure enough, I can see the tile up on the top is pushed out of place, and there's fingerprints down there was white walls, and I can see fingerprints down the entire wall, 2 big handprints down the wall. So I'm thinking to myself, what the heck happened? So I look on the floor, my guys on the AM shift and the PM shift. The AM shift takes the mail and throws the mail underneath my private office. So I look, and the mail is inside there, and there's footprints on top of the mail. Now, when you have mail, you have it laying not just all on top of each other. When you throw it in there, it's laying all jumbled up. And I can see a perfect footprint right on top, greasy footprint, of course, because it's the shop. A greasy footprint across like 3 pieces of mail. I see the footprint there, and I see the fingerprints down the wall. I put 2 and 2 together. I know my night shift guy did it because the mail doesn't come until a certain time in the afternoon, goes underneath the door. So I know that this nighttime kid did it. So I said, listen, before I get to myself, I said, before this goes crazy, let me call the kid's father. I'm going to talk to the father and tell him what happened. The father's a policeman. So I called him up and I said, listen, your son stole from me. He says, gets an attitude with me right away. It's like, what do you mean my son wouldn't do that? So I explained to him, just like I'm telling you what happened. He says to me, you're an effing, lots of profanities in there and everything. I said, nope. I said, I'm sorry. I said, I apologize for ruining your day. I said, but I'm going to hang up the phone now, and I'm calling downtown, and I'm going to have them come up, and we're going to follow through with an investigation to find out what happened. I hang up the phone, call the police. The police come down. I talk to them. Now, I know a lot of the police down there. They're all really good guys. And I'm talking to the guy, and I said, listen, I said, you got these greasy fingerprints coming down the wall over here. I said, can't you get some fingerprints off of it? And he said, really? So with grease like that, he says, you're not going to be able to get any prints off that. I showed them the mail on the floor. I explained to them the whole thing. And he says, all right, then, they're talking, doing their paperwork and everything. And he says to me, what was stolen? And I said, it was maybe a couple of $100 in cash. And there was a bag. I had soda machines in the place and candy machines. So inside there was a big bag of quarters, whatever, all the change from the soda machine. I said, there's a whole bag of change from the machines too. He stole the bag of money as well. And we're talking and everything. All of a sudden, I see a car pull up outside the place. The guy that the son, his father was a policeman. He parks in front of my place. He comes in. He looks right at me as he walks in, just staring at me. Walks in, puts the money on the desk, puts the other money on the desk, the cash money, and he says to me, "We're effing done here, right?" So I said, "Yeah." I said, "Yeah, we're done." So that was the time when the policeman's son stole money. So all right. So enough of these being robbed stories. That's all the lousy part of being in business. All right. So we talked about that. We talked about that. We talked about that. You know what? Well, I think we did enough of these theft stories. Enough is enough. All right, let's go see what everybody is talking about over here. All right, we're gonna go scroll back up to the top now. Budget and Leggett, hi, how you doing? You guys are the first ones here today. Gerald, you popped in second. What's up? Lon, hello, Jim, how are you? Nice to see you here, Lon. Hello, Bob T, John. Let me see what we got going on. Jim, oh, Dennis says, Jim, wrong shirt. But I knew somebody was going to say something about that. But I got to show you this. Check it out. Let me just see if we can see this. I'm going to go back for 1 second here. Check it out. Hawaii. So it is my Hawaiian shirt. It's just not the Hawaiian shirts, but it is a Hawaiian shirt. Speaking of Hawaiian shirts, you guys see what's going on Hawaii now? They got some real big problems going on over there. The Big Island, actually. This would be on probably it's called Volcanoes, where it is, a Volcano National Park. I've been there. It's a gorgeous place. They got some really big problems over there now where I think there's 20 fissures have opened up and it's spewing lava all down through the island, through some subdivisions. I think it's Leilani Estates or something like that. They're getting wiped out over there. It's really pretty bad what's going on. And I just heard before on the radio that, or on the TV, I should say, that somebody was actually was injured by the lava, where somehow they got the lava on them. It was really, really pretty bad. Okay. Let's see what we got going on here. I'm going to scroll back over here. Stanley Jacobs. Where can I find the 16-pin OBD1 scan tool for GM, 1995 and older, for a reasonable price? The only place you're going to really find something like that is going to be Amazon. You're going to definitely find it on Amazon. A lot of them have it, but they actually have adapters built into it. I think we talked about this last week, but you can get it on Amazon. That's where you're going to find you're going to find it. McGee 63, or I should say MG 60, MG McGee. Yeah, McGee 63, Beach Boys song. Okay. McGee 63 says the same thing. All you need is a paper clip and you can count. It's true. What we used to do back then, and I think we talked about this last week, so I'm not going to devote a lot of time to it. You just took a safety pin, or you took a piece of wire and you jumped out A and B on the connector, turned the key to the on position, and counted the amount of flashing. The check engine light would flash, and that would flash out your code. So it would flash 1, 1, 2, and that would mean that you're actually getting ready to read the codes. 1, 1, 2 is the meaning start of message. Then it'll flash out all your codes in double sequences. And the last one I think it flashes out is a 5-5, which means end of message. How I remember that stuff, I have no idea. McGee 63 says Coke is a real thing. I think we're talking about Coca-Cola, right? That's what I thought. I'm here to figure out This is Timothy Stevens says, I'm here, Jim. Figured out. I'm a little computer Oh, I just sent you an email a little while ago. Okay. Timothy, you had something going on too. Something was wrong. Let me just see. Give me 1 second. I know I printed something out about it. Okay. All right, Timothy, we're going to talk about yours first, even though you were on page 3. We're going to talk about yours first because I saw it here first. I hope you're still with me. Okay. Timothy says, I have a 2004 Cavalier. When the car is running, engine light stays on, but when you drive it, it blinks. Just changed the engine because the engine was bad. I have pics of the damage to the old engine. Could really use some help. I am okay. All right, Timothy. I will tell you this: if you have a check engine light that's blinking, that's extremely serious. You really should not drive a car with a blinking check engine light. With a blinking check engine light means that the misfire that's in the engine is significant enough to cause catalytic converter failure, which means that the engine is misfiring, dumping raw fuel down into the exhaust system, and that raw fuel is going to burn up and destroy that catalytic converter. So you do not want to drive it. Being that you had the problem on the second engine, the first engine you obviously had problems with, and now the second engine you're having problems with, what I would look into is, first thing you're going to do before you do anything, throw a scan tool on it and get a code. You need to know what code numbers are popping up there first. I think you're going to wind up having a bad coil, a bad injector, or something like that. But before you do anything with this engine, get the car scanned, find out a code. If you get the code number and send me an email, I can tell you what's going on by that code number. But it's very important that before you start touching anything under the hood, let's find out what that code is all about. My suspicion tells me and I'm assuming it's probably a used engine, like a junkyard type engine, because of 2004. I don't think you'd have the engine rebuilt. It wouldn't be very cost efficient. So I'm assuming that it's probably going to be a junkyard engine, which may have the old coils, the old injectors, bad spark plugs, could be just about anything. So find out what codes it is first. Once you find out what the codes are, send me an email, let me know what the code numbers are, and I can tell you what's going on with that. Now, I know the next question. If you don't have a scan tool, you got to pay somebody to do it. If you go to one of these big box stores that are out there, usually they'll scan it for you for free. They'll tell you a code number. They won't tell you what you need to fix it or whatever, but they will scan it and tell you what the code number is. So get the code number. Once you get the code number, send me an email, and then we'll go a little further in it. But do not drive the car. Very, very important is you don't want to drive it. You drive it, you're going to wind up destroying that catalytic converter. All right, let's go back over here. Okay, that's Timothy. Okay, looks like Jesanet. My stupid phone delayed me. Don't feel bad. I got my phone that drives me nuts over here. Somebody sent me a not a text today, but actually some kind of a document, and it came through. Everything came through on the top. Everything came out on the bottom, and nothing came out in the center where it's supposed to. So don't feel bad. These phones drive you nuts. McGee 63 says my cops are druggies and drunks. Well, some of them are, but I tell you, honestly, truthfully, I know so many good policemen who would give you the shirt right off their back. The vast majority of them are all very good, and they're out there trying to do a good job. There's some of them that give you some crap or whatever, and they give a kind of a bad reputation to them. But I'd say 99.999% of them out there are all decent people, decent family people, just like everybody else. I have a lot of friends of mine who are on the job, so I know what I'm talking about. These guys I could call them at any time, day or night. I'll even tell you this: my shop that I have, I live pretty far away from my shop. A very good friend of mine in the town is a police officer. He's got keys to my building because he can get there a lot quicker than I can if something happens. So, all right. So I hate to disagree with you, McGee 63, but on this one I do. Most of them are really, really good people. Badger and Leggett says, congratulations, nearly 50,000. Yeah, it took me a long time to get there, a lot longer than I thought. But 50,000, that's not a number to sneeze at. That's a lot of people, you know. So 50,000 people, that's just amazing. And I think it probably is going to happen probably by next Sunday. I think I should hit 50,000. Pretty sure. JR, hey, Jim. I'm glad you stopped in, JR. Ooh, sorry about that. I just lost everybody. Give me 1 second. I'm just going back over here. Okay, Badger and Leggett, Joel. I was almost sure. Oh boy, I got a feeling this is going to be, business. Joel says, I was almost shocked. No wild shirt. Nope, no wild shirt, but it is Hawaii. And even the back of it, it's Hawaii. That's my favorite place, actually. Gerald Volcano, yeah, Hawaii's having a lot of problems over there. Lon says, is it the real Michael Bloomberg? I don't think that that Mr. Bloomberg would actually want to see me. I don't think I could help him with anything. Okay. Eldorado. Oh, hi, Jim. We are. When are you going to do the old tool challenge again? The T-shirt you sent me is worn out. It is. I ran out of all the old stuff. A lot of the stuff I got rid of, and I don't have any more old stuff to do. But maybe I'll repost some of those old ones. All right. But I think you already know the answer. But if you need another shirt, send me a personal message. I have a couple of them left. I have a few of them left. I don't have many left. But if send me a personal message, I'll send you another one. Joel says, speaking of working for yourself, employee stuff, I had a guy out in a company truck, left it running in front of a store at midnight and walked home. I guess he quit. I've heard that before. I actually, a friend of mine that owned a parts store that I dealt with, that happened to him as well. Some kid decided he was not. The guy that owned the parts store was a very abusive type person. He was really pretty nasty to everybody. And what happened is the guy decided he was going to park the truck. He parked the truck and he was never coming back, and he left. Except he never told him where he parked the truck. He didn't park it outside the place. He parked it blocks and blocks away. So, all right. Let's see. What, Rudlin? I don't know what this is all about. I apologize. I should have shut this off. Oh, we have Joe here, and we have my buddy. Sorry, guys. I got to shut this off. It's my buddy Joe. He says, block that idiot's chat. I'm assuming, I think I know who you're talking about. I can see up on top there. But yeah, you're right, Joe. Bit of a cracker. Eric, hi, how you doing? I'm surprised, Eric, that you're not doing your What's Up Wednesday. I was kind of surprised about that, but I understand why. I know when my kids were younger, too, that was the priority. The T-ball, the softball, the Cub Scouts, the camping out, the whole family thing. So I commend you for actually putting your family above everything. You are a true family man. You're very much. You do a lot of stuff like I did when I was younger as well. I don't know who this guy is, but somebody's got to tell me how I can block him out of here. Let me just take a look. I'm gonna try something I never did before. Hard user on this channel. Okay, let's do that. All right. Okay, we'll see. All right. So good to see you, Eric. Hope everything is good with you and the kids and everything, and the wife. Looks like you're busy as heck. Maybe one day when I'm up that direction, I'll stop by and I'll buy you a cup of coffee. I know you're still drinking coffee. All right. Let's see what we got else going on. Badgett Leggett. I guess you know Eric too. I think everybody knows Eric. Actually, you know what? I'm going to tell you something. I remember having a discussion with Eric. And Eric, you probably remember this too. When we first started, you and me, we both started. I remember I was doing paperwork and I was home on a Saturday afternoon doing paperwork. And I remember we were talking on the computer back and forth. And you know, I'm sorry, just so you know, my dogs are going to go berserk because Mrs. Jimthecarguy is outside right now, and I know that they're going to go crazy out here. So that's what's going on. But I remember we talked about it, and I remember we talked about that it wasn't really worth our time doing it. But I'm glad you stuck with it, Eric. Now it's me trying to catch up to you because you actually have a really Okay. That was two people actually looking in the window. And my dogs are going berserk. Okay. Thinking. Oh, I didn't block the guy. All right. Well, no big deal. We're just going to ignore him anyway. Sorry about that. My dogs, my wife came in the other way. Timothy Stevens, I didn't catch it. Just started playing my server. Okay. All right, Timothy. You know what? I'll tell you one more. I'm going to just give you a brief version. You can go back and you can look at this video to find out what I told you in the beginning. But basically, what I'm saying is that don't drive the car. If that check engine light is blinking, do not drive the car. It's extremely dangerous. Go back and look at the beginning of the video, and you'll be able to see, what I said about what to do. Okay, Michael Hernandez says I have a blinking check engine light, 2004 Toyota RAV4 6-cylinder. Number 6, misfire. Should I stop driving it? Absolutely. You have a misfire, you'd want to definitely get that misfire checked out to find out what's going on with it. Too much happening in the summer. I know that. Way too much going on in the summer. I understand that, Eric. Joe's Auto. Okay, I see Drew is here. Drew, hi, welcome. Okay, we got Big Dog 50001. Hey, Jim and everyone, I hope I didn't miss any stories. Yeah, I told a couple of them, but the good thing about an old guy is that, like me, is I got a million stories. I'll think of something else that we can talk about too. And we'll talk about the old days with the older cars that we used to have. You missed some good ones. If you I'll come up with some. I got some other stuff too we could talk about too. I mean, after being in business, well, the gas station days is really what got so many stories because you had a lot of people coming and going over the years. Employees would come and go like crazy. Now it's not like that anymore, but back then it was. All right. Okay, Jason and Eric O, Joe's Auto, you two do excellent work. I enjoy your videos. They're two good guys. Okay, Gerald says Timothy just said to get. Okay, good. Thanks a lot, Gerald. I appreciate it. Okay. Turn up the volume. Gerald says turn up the volume. I'm thinking that that's probably for him. I hope you can hear me okay. Oh, you know what? The volume might have went down because my dogs were barking. the computer automatically brings down the volume once the dogs start barking. So that's probably what it was. I think you should be back okay now. Uh, my dirt, oh, your dogs heard my dogs and started barking. That's the truth. You know, my dogs, they see a squirrel walk past and they just go berserk. A squirrel or a chipmunk, or the other day I was walking along the path by the lake down here, and it was just me and the dogs. It was probably right before dark, so it was probably like 7:30 or something. And as we come around from these trees and come around the other part of the lake, right in front of me, sitting on the path in front of me, is a fox. Needless to say, you know, my dogs went berserk about that too. Okay, let's see what else we got going on here. I'm going to go back. Yeah, JR says best burglar alarm you can have. You know, I'm going to tell you a story about that. My dogs are, when they're sleeping, they're sleeping. Well, the other day, my daughter drove in. She lives out of town, and she drove in, drove down here, walked in my front door, walked into my kitchen, and my dogs were sleeping in the back in the family room and didn't even hear her until she said something. So most of the time, you're right. That's the best burglar alarm you can have. Um, so yeah, the conversation converters are really expensive. That's true. Even when they're even when you try to replace the converters, you put the aftermarket. If you're not putting the factory converter in, you're putting the aftermarket. Even the aftermarket converter is very expensive. Actually, you know what? Even the scrap converter, when you send it to the scrap man, they pay a lot of money for those scrap converters because they have so much of the platinum inside of them. South Main says uh, points or COP ignition. What do you prefer? To be honest with you, I don't know. The coil unplug is probably going to be the best thing to do. It was a big adjustment going from the cars that were actually points and condensers going to the cars that were the electronic ignition, and then actually going onto the coil unplug. You know, so easiest ones for me to work on was always the points. Back in the day, and Eric, you probably don't remember this, you're too young, but back in the day, if you had a car that got stuck on the road, I could go with a screwdriver and a book of matches and maybe a couple of wrenches, and I know I could get that car running to get it back to the shop so I can get it fixed the right way. Today, you get a car that breaks down on the road. There's no sense even going out there and looking at it because you're not going to fix anything on the road. You need to do a lot of diagnostics to be able to tell. But back in the day, when I started, probably everything I was working on was like, in the early 70s. Everything back then, it was very simple to work on. Points, condenser, you had a gas filter, sometimes a gas filter clog, and if the gas filter clogged, you took the filter out, threw it away, drove it back to the shop, and changed the filter. They were real easy back then. Not like they are today. I think I touched this and it just jumped all the way ahead again. I'm going to go back to Eric, points CLP ignition. What do you prefer, Jim? Okay, yeah. Lon says every BMW part is expensive. Is that any German-built vehicle is expensive to work on? And most of the time, you're not going to be able to go with aftermarket parts. I will tell you about an aftermarket BMW, and we're going to come back to some of this over here. But I remember I had this one guy come in, and he had an older BMW, a lot of miles on it. He wanted me he had an antifreeze leak. As it turns out, the antifreeze leak was not the radiator, but it was the overflow container. The overflow container was cracked. The cooling fans were working, so I know that probably just old age. It had over 200,000 miles on it. So I decided we're going to just change the bucket. I call up, I get a price on it from BMW. The guy freaks out. It's too much money. And this is when I decided that no one Mr. Nice Guy when it comes to this kind of stuff. He decided that he didn't want to go with the factory part. It was expensive. It was actually 3 times the cost of my favorite parts company, Dorman. So I decided we're going to go with the aftermarket. I do the guy a favor. I get the bucket. I put the bucket in. I could not, normally when you put the BMW bucket in there, you'll pull a couple of clips, you take a couple of hose clamps off, you pull off the sensor, you pop it out, you take the new one, you pop it right back in, put your clips in, plug your sensor in, fill it up, you're out the door. I could not get that overflow bucket to snap back in, no matter what I did. You have two tubes going in through the bottom up, so you have to put it down on top. It's got to be exactly the same distance or the correct distance apart. Could not get that in there. Finally, after playing around for forever, I get it to pop in there. I get it in there. I put the clips on. The thing is leaking. The overflow bucket that they just gave me was leaking around the top where the radiator cap goes onto. So the bucket was no good. The guy wanted me to put another one on of a Dorman product. I said no. I said the only way I'm doing this is I have to change it with the original factory part, or take the car and get the f out of here, because I'm not doing it again. And we got the original factory part, put that on, and like I said, clips come out, pop the thing off. I took the new one, put the new one back in, put the two clips in, filled it up, and it was out the door. I think it took .7 or .8 to do it. The one before that, that Dorman's part, probably took me every bit of 3 or 4 hours to do it. It was a pain in the you know what. No profanities, right? Okay, so that's it. Yeah. Oh, we have Mike in here as well. Hey, Mike, welcome in. Mike said he will say points. And it's true, Mike. I do like the points. It was very easy to get them running. The coil on plug, that actually it works a lot better. And Joel said I had a '64 Phelan 500 Sport Coupe in 1973. Perfect. Paid $300 for it. Just sold myself for 20 grand. I know over the weekend I was actually watching one of the auctions, and they had some of the, I think one of the cars I saw, there was one of the Reggie Jackson collection. And Reggie Jackson has quite a few nice, really, really premium cars. But yeah, they were going for crazy money. Okay. All right, what we got going on? Sorry about that. I was just reading something. What is a moose bar? I have no idea what that is. Um, okay, Eric is going to go. I see he said he's got a roll. Eric, thanks for stopping by. I appreciate it. You take care of yourself, and we'll talk soon. All right. Yeah, Jason that says, okay, well, my YouTube mechanics are here. Jim, Eric, Joe, and Mike. What more do you need, right? You got everybody you need right here on this one page. Scruntle says, me and Jim are the same. Me and Jim are the same vintage. I think I'm just a teeny bit older than you, Mike, by probably at least, I'm going to guess about 10 years. I'm guessing. I'm not really sure, but I'm guessing. He's 63. Unfortunately, this is John A. Clark 1 says, I'm old. Unfortunately, I'm old enough to have installed and adjusted many sets of points. I know that was the best back in those days, right? I mean, I remember back then we used to have a cabinet on the wall, and the cabinet was only whatever 3 feet by 3 feet, and you had every ignition, points, condenser, cap, rotor, everything you needed was in that cabinet for every car that was out there. Today, you have to have a an auto parts house, and you still don't have everything. They still have to pull from the from the warehouse. Oh yeah, I got you. I knew what you meant, Mike. It was a typo. I do it all the time. Well, the one I hate too is when you're in here and you're typing and it does the auto correct, and you type something out and you send it and you look at it and you said, "The heck was that? I didn't say that." The auto correct is wonderful. I never use aftermarket. It just shows you know what I'm talking about. I actually, Joe, you know what? We talked about this when I was doing this job. I remember I was on the phone bitching, complaining. Sorry about that. That I was on the phone complaining to you about the car and the customer. And then the customer proceeded to give me a hard time because he wanted to put that junk back in again. Okay, John, I had a Mazda rotary engine with 2 distributors, 2 sets of points. That's right. I remember those cars. But you'll remember this one then, John. You remember when they used to have the You used to have the Chryslers, and you had dual points in them. Well, Chrysler had them, and then I think the GMs had them also. But they used to have dual points. One was leading and one was trailing, so that way, you made sure that you burnt all that fuel off. But they were a little bit of a challenge. If you didn't know what you were doing, it was definitely a challenge to try to get the dwell set correctly. Because you had to set the dwell back then. If it was a Chrysler, you had to do it with a screwdriver and a feeler gauge, and if it was a GM, you had to do you had to open up the window on it and go in through the window of it and then turn the points with that small little Allen key so you could adjust the dwell on it. Well, what do you do when you're checking the dwell on it? You have two sets of points. If you adjust this one, how do you know that two of them are set? You had to open them up and you had to actually disconnect the one set of points so you could actually adjust the dwell on the one and then go back and adjust the dwell on the second one. But back then, yeah, car broke down. You went out there with a screwdriver and a book of matches, and maybe a wrench, and you can open them up and you adjust them, and you can drive away. That was the good old days. I remember back then we used to have cars that we had. They used to have these small little gas filters in the front of the carburetors, and you would actually get in the car and drive, and the car would run beautiful. And all of a sudden, the car would start bogging down, spitting, sputtering, and die out. You let the car sit for a half hour. You start the car back up and drive away like nothing was wrong with it. You get down the road a little bit, and all of a sudden it would start to spit and sputter, and it would die out again. And what you would basically do is just take the gas filter out, cut the gas filter open with a razor blade, turn it inside out, open it up, and you could see all the debris inside. It was all fine little, like sediment, like rust inside there. Okay, what we got going on here? It touched it, and all of a sudden it jumped way. Okay, never use aftermarket. Mazda just has points. All right, chooses. McGee says older Nissans finicky about the parts, especially ignition coils. One of Jim's earlier videos addressed that. It's true. You remember that one, huh? All right. You're playing Vinny. Sarge Dinzo. Your pal Vinny told me about you being online. You know what? Hang on a second. I think it was Vinny who actually just texted me before. Yep. Yep. Actually, it was Vinny. Vinny texted me before that he was going to be here. So you're a friend of Sarge. Is this Sarge? I'm not sure. Sarge Dinzo. I'm wondering. I got a feeling I know who that is. That's an alias, of course, but I got a feeling who it is. And if you could actually, Sarge, if it's you, just let me know. Send me something else down the bottom over here. But what kind of vehicle you're driving? I'm pretty sure who you are. Okay, remember the Sun Diagnostic Behemoth? Yep, Lon, I remember that. I remember having one of those when I used to work for a guy. That machine, you had to have it on rails inside your shop. It was so big. And basically all it was the points and condensers and all of the older cars. Did you need it? It was all overkill. It was meant to look big and impressive, but nowhere to lie. It would take up the entire wall inside your shop, and it would be on big beams that you'd have to slide the thing back and forth on. But yet when you looked in the back of it, there really wasn't nothing to it. It was all meant for show pretty much, but that thing was a monster. And Lon, you know what? Being a Snap-on guy, you'll remember this. Remember the old scopes that Snap-on first came out? I'm going to tell you a story about this. Lon, this one is directed towards you. Remember when they first came out with the scopes? They weren't cheap. I mean, the scope today is tiny. It's on your lap. But back then, we had a scope. It was probably about that wide, and it was probably about 3 feet deep, and it fit into a big cabinet, had a big swing arm on it with all of the attachments and everything. So I was one of the first guys in town to get one of those machines. and I had it in my shop, and now I had the thing in the shop and it had the swing arm on it. So the swing arm would come out over the car. The machine itself would stand next to it. It was probably 6 feet high, maybe 5 feet wide, and about maybe 3 or 4 feet deep. So it was big. But the swing arm, you take the swing arm and you turn it out, you take all your cables off and you connect it up on it. I'm on the telephone, I'm talking, and my guy is working on this car, and he's got the machine. I had just finished working with the machine. I had disconnected the machine, and I pulled it back over to the side. I answered the phone. He decides he's going to lift the car up with the swing arm over the front fender itself. He's lifting the car up, and I'm on the phone talking. I'm watching the car go up, and I'm saying, "Guy, stop the car, stop." And he didn't. It just pretty much brain dead. Hits the swing arm, goes flying over backwards. The whole scope hits the floor, pulverized the scope, destroyed my brand new scope. And back then, you know what they cost back then, Lon? They cost you a fortune. Needless to say, that was his last day as well. Hayward, welcome. I see you. See you stopped in the Eklund cabinet or something like that. That's right. Actually, it is the Eklund cabinet. Well, you know what? Hey, well, you're probably going to remember this as well. You remember the guy that used to come around in the Mighty van? He used to come around and he used to fill. You had your cabinets on there, and it was the Mighty cabinet, obviously. And he would come in, and you'd have maybe 10 sets of GM points. You'd have 10 condensers. You'd have 10 of everything in there. And he would come in once a week or once a month, however often you needed it. And he would come in there and he would actually replace whatever you used inside there. All right, let's see. Joel says, I had a guy, 35, young guy in my shop. He saw a dwell meter and he said, what the heck is that? That's true. That's true. Most young people have no idea what attack and dwell is. They have no idea nowadays what even a timing light is. They have no clue what all that stuff is. And I still have it, actually. It's pretty, I still have a lot of the antique cars that come to me, and you'll see some of the videos in here occasionally where I'll put them in there. I try not to. I've had a couple of them in there, but most of the time, whenever I'm working on those cars, I'm not filming it. But those cars, what one guy says to me, something to the effect, he says, you're the oldest guy I know in this business who has all the tools to work on the car. And he said, the best part is you still have all your marbles. So I thought that was a compliment, actually. All right. Disgruntled Mechanic says, I had one of those Big Sun boarded used. Wish I would have kept it. I think you need a bigger place to store that thing, Mike. That thing was monstrous. And you probably need your backhoe to lift it up and move it around. I think they still have it in Sears. I think you're probably right. Sorry, I just touched it and all of a sudden it just went crazy again. I got so many emails with so many people wanting to talk here. Okay, the Toronto Mechanic says, hey, I had a cabinet. Besides that, it was Champion spark plug cabinet. That's true. Yep. You used to have the Champions, or you had the ACs. I know for me, it was always, if it was a Chrysler product, it always got the Champion plugs. If it was a Ford or a Mercury, it always got the Motorcraft plugs or the auto lights. And if it was the any kind of GM product, it always got the AC Delco. So I always had all the different ones in a place. Disgruntled says, Dave, John A. Clark says, I never worked on any Chryslers back then, Ford and GM, and my first car was a Datsun. And that was my buddy, and I put a 12A rotary in it for an RX2. Yeah, me, I was actually, I always owned, I did own some GM cars. I think my first car was a 66 F85 Oldsmobile. But me, when I was younger, to me, it was always a Ford. Back in the day, everybody used to say Fords, they were no good, they were trouble and everything. Me, I always had a lot of if you take care of your vehicle, it's not going to let you down, and that's the case with the Fords. I love them. I mean, my favorite car. I have you guys know I had a lot of different cars. Me, it was the Mustangs. I had everything from the '65 or the '64 and a half, all the way on up to like '72, '73. I didn't like anything past that because I didn't like the body style. But I probably owned over the years 50 or 60 different Mustangs. And my favorite one was my '67 Fastback. Now, I know I told you last week or the week before, I'm going to get a picture and I'm going to show you the restoration that I did on that car. But honestly, I forgot all about it. I will someday come up with that picture and I'll show you. When I painted that car, I painted it. It was supposed to be candy apple red, and it turned out to be like a purplish color car. It looked horrible. So I didn't never drove the car. I took it back into the shop the next weekend, sanded it down, and painted it. It was a Corvette blue that I painted it, and I had that car for a while until I decided one day I was going to sell it. I sold the Mustang. I probably told you this already. I sold my '67 Mustang, and on my way home that night, I sold it like in the afternoon. And on my way home that night, I crashed my '73 Gran Torino and wound up destroying the whole front of it. So in one day, I lost my '67 Mustang and my '73 Gran Torino. But the Gran Torino did survive. I was able to repair it and put it back on the road, and I got quite a few more years out of it before I decided to give it up. Okay, Big Dog Automotive. Joe says, Jim, this is Joe's Auto Electric, says, Jim, I had to do a service call for a local shop who had an old mutt in it with points. They could not get it running. Yeah, you get these younger guys. Um, they have no idea how to do anything with the points. They open it up and look at it. They have no clue what's going on. You'll get in there and they'll try to adjust the points with a feeler gauge because that's what it says, not realizing that when you're in the distributor, you have to turn that distributor and make sure that the rubbing block of the points is exactly touching that high point of the lobe. Because if you try to adjust the points on the flat lower part of it, it isn't going to do anything. That car's not going to start. So yeah, it was once you saw how to do it, it was fairly easy. Book of Matches was 017, perfect for points. That's right, exactly. That's what it was. 017 was just about every car. 017 was the gap for the points. And if you remember this Toulon, everything was 35 for the spark plug gap on just about everything, 30 to 35. Um, Let's see what we got going. I don't understand what sold my 12 meter in 1993. Yeah, the 12 meter was actually, and mine was all snap on. Everything I had was all snap on. Back then, that's all I ever used to buy was snap on. We got going on here. Mike says I had 3 timing lights. Used it for a week ago on my nephew's 283 in his 1957 Chevy wagon. Wow, nice car. Nice car. First time I used it in years. Yeah, but you know what, Mike? It's good to know that when you need it, you have it, and you can actually get the job done. Um, those older cars, they are the best. I'm actually some guy I know is actually selling a car. I don't even know what year it is. It's probably in the 1940s, and you know, it's a beautiful car. I've been actually debating about it, thinking about the car myself, but I'm not really a collector kind of guy, so I probably won't do it. Um, I had an old Snap-on oscilloscope at work around 1980 vintage, and Mike, you know exactly what I mean. I mean, those things were monstrous. Today, it's this big, and you put it on your lap. Back in the Snap-on, it was tremendous. And then you had the arm with the wiring and everything else that used to come across to the thing. Um, what's going on my computer here tonight? I touch it, it just jumps way ahead. Okay. Monsters, I had a Cal-Equip. Yep, Cal-Equip. A lot of them were actually Cal-Equip. Linda James, I had a Big Allen scope. Yep. Joe's Auto said I had a Pico and a Vantage. Yep, the Pico is the best. Rare Diamond. Hey, I hope everything is okay. I don't remember what island you were on. I don't think it was the Big Island. I think it was another island. But welcome to the show. I hope everything is well with you. I mean, you're in Hawaii. What can be bad over there? I wish I was in Hawaii tonight. Okay, McGee 63. Okay, you know what? We're going to just stop with the chat here for a minute now because I've been neglecting some other stuff that I wanted to talk about. I got 3 pages of stuff here that I don't think we're going to get to tonight, but I do want to just do a mail call here. I had a couple of things that were sent in to me, so I do want to open them up and show you what it is. Now, believe me, I'm not making a recommendation on any of this stuff, but this is companies that actually send stuff to me. So I just want to show it to you. I'll put a link down there. You look at it, you decide whether it's good, bad, whatever. This comes from, no idea who it comes from. It's a carbon fiber composite digital caliper. I'm not sure even how much something like this goes for. It's actually, if you needed to measure if you needed to, this is the tool here. It says carbon fiber composite digital caliper. Carbon fiber, it feels like it's carbon fiber. All right, that's the company right there. And like I said, I'm not saying good, no good, or whatever. This is something that the company sent me. We'll turn it on. It's a micrometer up. I'll turn it on. Oh. Okay. Got to pull out the lock tab here. This is the mic here. And you could, if you had something you needed to check to see what it was, like if you wanted to see how thick something was, you could put it on here like this, and you could actually read whatever it is. But, top quality. It's not top quality, but, I'll put the link in down the bottom over there. I already put the link in. I think I remember seeing it. It was cheap. It was only, whatever, $20 or something. I'm not even sure, to be truthful with you. I put the link in there. Take a look at it and see. Anybody who has a use for some of this stuff, send me an email. I'll be more than happy to send it to you. I was going to do a giveaway type promotion. I'm still thinking about it, so I might do a giveaway. I'm not really sure at this point if I'm going to do it or not, because with the giveaways you do have a lot of guidelines that you have to adhere to. So if anybody really has a use for this and they really absolutely need it, send me an email. I'll send it to you. I really don't have a use for it. It's not something that I use. This is the other one that just came in. So let's see what this is. Okay. And this is also from Sarge. I knew it was you. How you doing? You threw me off when you said Dinzo. I hope you're doing okay. I'm gonna tell you something about this Sarge. I know Sarge since I had a full head of hair and I was back in high school. Me and him went to high school together back in the what is it? We graduated in 75, so back in 71, 72, whatever it was. That's how long I know Sarge for. Okay. This is I did look this one up here. This was like $25. This is fairly cheap. It is a code reader. This is not meant for the OBD1. This is actually for the OBD2. You can see it has the opening right here for the newer OBD2. It's not the OBD1. It's a scan tool for reading codes from 1996 and newer, so it does not do the older cars. And it's a basic scan tool for diagnosing any kind of automobile. I'm sorry, it's just my obsessive compulsive. I always put it back in the envelope that it came out of, so I know. Let me put my letter opener away, and then we're going to get back over here. So that's what I got going on here with the mail call today. I do have some other stuff coming in during the week. I received a couple of tracking numbers for stuff that's coming to me. What it is, I have no idea, but we'll have it probably. Next weekend is. I'm not sure we should be here. I should be able to do it next weekend and have the whatever we're going to have. I'll show on the show when I get it. All right, let's go back over here. We're going to talk about something else here. All right, so Joe, I'm glad you stopped by. I don't see Vinny in here though. Does Vinny have a Jeep Grand Cherokee? Does Vinny have a YouTube name on here? I don't see anything that's for Vinny. But maybe you can tell me, Sarge, if Vinny's in here. I don't know. What else we got here? Bill Straver says dwell 28 to 32. That's right, every one of them, 28 to 32. All right, I'm just going back so I can get to some of this here. Found on road dead. I've heard that one a lot. Yep. But they were actually pretty good. I really have nothing bad to say about the Fords. I was very happy with them. I remember the van. Change. Okay. Hayward says, yep, I remember the van. And we had a new driver. So the following week, I charged up about 10 condensers and put them on the shelf, and he grabbed them. Glad he had a sense of humor. I remember back when I was in high school talking about that. We used to do that too. We used to take the condenser. We used to charge a condenser up, and you could take the condenser and you can just throw it to somebody. It's like, here, catch, and throw it to them. And when they caught it, bam, they got that jolt. It was quite a jolt. But we used to charge the condensers up and throw them at people, and when they caught them, you got jolted. Probably about whatever 30, 40,000 volts, no amps, just voltage. Used to really. You know what? Hayward, you probably remember this too. You remember, and Lon, you probably remember this as well. Remember when Snap-on came out with the box? It was actually meant for the HEI. Used to have a failure inside the distributor. And we used to have on the side of the distributor, we used to unplug the wiring and plug this box in that was made by Snap-on, and you can actually get the car to run from this box, and you can drive it back to your shop. But we used to have it that it worked for that, but it also worked on the older cars, and you used to pull the coil wire out. You would pull the coil wire out, take it out, and you would plug the hot box, I used to call it. It was, I don't even know what the proper name for it was, but I used to call it the hot box. You used to plug it into the thing, and you would turn it on, and it would actually shoot out sparks about that long. So you would stick it into the top of the coil, where the coil would actually go into the distributor, and when the car was spinning, it would distribute to the cylinders the spark that's supposed to be there, and you could drive the car back to the shop without having to have it towed. Well, I remember one time grabbing that thing. It was on, and I remember taking it out, and you got jolted from that thing, and that jolt, it was like, whatever, it shoot out a spark about that long, and it looks like it would kill you, but it didn't really have any amps. But it does cause your arms and legs to go numb. When you got hit with that thing, you would feel like your arms and legs would get all tingling. Now I'm going to tell you something else I did as a young, foolish boy. We took that hot box one time when I had, not my gas station days, when I left my gas station. So about 25 years ago. And we had a guy come into my shop, and this was the shop that I was renting. And what we did is we decided we were going to play a joke on this guy. Like I said, that voltage wouldn't kill you, but it would definitely shock you. So what we did is we actually took that hot box, we took a wire, connected a wire up to the electrode, wrapped it around the doorknob, and connected it up to the doorknob on the door that led from the office into the shop. Now the door was made of wood, so you could put it on there, and you could hear like the voltage as it was jumping inside there, would jump from the lock itself to the latch plate in the side, so you could hear like zzz, zzz, zzz. You could hear that inside there. The guy comes walking in, and he comes walking in. We said, "Oh, come on inside." And he went to reach for the door, and he could hear that voltage. And he says to me, "You guys are trying to effing kill me." But we didn't get him. We actually held a screwdriver to it so we could actually see the voltage jumping from the doorknob. He actually didn't think it was so funny though. All right, Joe Danasak found on road dead. John A. Clark, fixer report, repair daily. Sarge said Jeep Grand Cherokee. That's true, Joe. I remember everything about that truck. One of my friends, one Lon says, one said, friends don't let friends buy Fords. Honestly, I love them. I mean, I used to buy them all the time. Torinos and Mustangs and Fairlanes, all that kind of stuff. They were good cars. I remember when I used to work for this other guy, we had a Mustang, and it was a 390 with 428 heads on the thing, and that thing was a monster. I remember the guy that had this car. The engine was so big, and I think it was a 68. It wasn't the fastback. It was the regular, the coupe, and that we had this motor, the 428 inside this car with. It had the 428 heads, but the 390 block. And that thing, the engine and the heads were so big inside that engine compartment there, you couldn't even put the battery in there. That's how tight it was. Well, back in the day, it was unheard of to have a battery in your trunk. But that's what we had to do with that Mustang. We actually had to run a wire from the front of the car all the way back through into the trunk. And that's where we had to put the battery in the trunk of the car because there was no room underneath the hood. That car was so fast. I was with this guy one time, and he floored it, and that 390 would lift the car right off. The whole front of the car would come off the ground, not just the one tire. The entire front of the car would lift off the ground. That's how powerful that car was. One day he's driving this car, and he's driving down the road, and the guy was not the most brilliant guy in the world. He's driving down the road, and his exhaust system broke on it and fell on the floor. So he took the exhaust, he picked it up, and he threw it in the trunk. What do you think happened? What do you think was in the trunk? The battery. So he throws the exhaust system in, shorted the battery out, and blew it up because the exhaust system shorted out the battery and wound up blowing up the battery. You can't make up some of this stuff, but that car was a monster of a car. Unfortunately, he wound up destroying the car, but that was a quick car. And Rare Diamond says to me, yep, need to make sure your cam lobe on the distributor is pushing the breaker points open. Exactly. And I can't tell you how many times the guys would come in and the car be running like garbage. And you throw the tack and dwell in there and you check it, and sure enough, it's way off. And the guy said, well, I just set it at 17. It has to be right. If you don't set it on 17 exactly, if you're on the very, very tip of the lobe, you're good. But if you're on the downside or on the upside before it reaches its maximum lift and you set it, it's going to be off. And remember, back in those days, for every degree that the point time of the dwell was off, for every degree the dwell was off, you would be off 1 degree on your timing. So if you were off 10 degrees on the dwell, you were off 10 degrees on your timing as well. You would set your points up. And if you had a car that came in and it was running, the dwell was 20. If you checked your timing would be way off too. So you don't adjust your timing, you readjust your points first. You would adjust your points and then check your timing, and your timing would be right back on the money. For every degree it's off on the attack and dwell, for the dwell, it would be off on the timing as well. All right. 12, 28 to 32, that's true. Glenn, hey, welcome in. I'm glad you stopped by today. I hope everything is pretty good with you. I didn't get a chance to look at your Corvette. What is it? A piece of a Corvette or something like that, or something. I haven't had a chance to look at it, but I will look at it probably today. I saw the the thing come through for it. So I will check out your Corvette video that I know you just recently posted. I don't know what's going on here today. I just touched this and it jumped way, way ahead. Um, oh man, I'm sorry about this. I just touched it and it just jumped way ahead again. Try to get to where I was, but gotta go. Call you later. Thanks for the chat, Jim. See you later. Okay, good. Mike, take care. Tell Helga I said hello. Here we go. E63. Oh yeah, you remember that. I still have these snap-on the dwell meter and the timing light with the advance knob to find out what your total degrees of advance was. That's true. On the back of that timing light, you could actually turn, there's a little knob on the back, and you could actually turn the knob so you can actually see what the total advance would be. Now, you know what? Most of you guys are not gonna know what I'm talking about, but Hayward, you're gonna know what I'm talking about. You remember back in the day, total advance on the GMs or even on the Fords or anything, they used to be on the top there. On the distributor itself, you had your distributor and you had your piece where your rotor connected onto on the top. And you remember they used to have those little springs on there, and it was a centrifugal advance. You used to have the centrifugal advance that when it spun fast enough that the weights would actually open up and it would advance the timing by the amount of centrifugal force being exerted on there. And then they had the vacuum assist to take over after that. Now we're showing our age, both Hayward and myself. Hot lava could be bad. Yes, hot lava can definitely be bad, Glenn, for sure. McGee 63. I read that the people in Hawaii are hit with lava bombs. Yeah, I think I did hear something about that. It's no lie. I think it did happen where somebody is actually losing an extremity, whether it's a foot or a hand or something like that. Give me all the things. Uh, I want okay, John A. Clark says Scotty Kilmer says it's the bomb. I don't know what that means. Says it's the bomb. You know, John, to be honest with you, I'm very intrigued with that jumpstart box. I am going to test it. Basically, what it is, and we will. You know what? Next week, we're not going to get into it now. Next week, we're gonna do this next week. We're going to talk about that jumpstart box. Running out of time, and I had a couple other things. Um, that jumpstart box that we're talking about here, that John says is it's an auto wit jump pack. Um, I do want to check into a little bit further because, to be truthful with you, that's got me intrigued. I do have to look into a little bit further, but I am gonna I am gonna talk about that next week. Scotty Kilmer says it's the bomb. I'm not sure what that means. Maybe you can clarify that, John. Okay, then we have how much do your code readers cost? Timothy Stevens says, how much do the code readers cost? I think I put a link in my video. I think from what I remember, it's like 20, 25 bucks, something like that. Oh, 25 on the John says 25 on Amazon. It's really cheap. Is it top quality? Most likely not. Did I use it? No. Am I going to use it? Probably not. I may throw it in the trunk of somebody's car that I know as a just in case. But you know, I have the OTC, and I have the Snap on, so I really don't have a real use for that. But it's good to be able to at least find out what the code is that's going on in your vehicle, especially if you're on the road. Maybe I'll throw it in my trunk. I don't think so, but we'll throw it in somebody's trunk. Somebody will get it. And if somebody's really desperate and needs it, send me an email. I can send it to you too. I'm probably never even going to open the box up, truthfully. Are they reliable? I'm not really sure. Like I said, I never even opened it up, so I'm not really sure how reliable it is. But I will tell you this, Timothy, for $25, It's not a real big gamble. It's probably of a lower quality for that price. You remember the stuff we're at the shop, you're looking at thousands of dollars for a scan tool. This obviously is not going to do anything near what our stuff at the shop can do. So, but for 25 bucks, if you need to know what a code is, it's not really bad. None of the cheap code readers are reliable. That's true, Joe. You're right. Um, Ford flipped over. Redirections. Okay. Um, the most reliable for generic OBD2 has a launch C reader that sent me for free. Keep in mind. I think that's the one that we have here. I think it says launch on it. I'm pretty sure. I'm not even. Just take a look and see. Not really sure, but for the 25 bucks it's going to cost you, it's really cheap, and you have it just in case. Keep in the glove box. My wife's Odyssey is easy enough for her to use and tell me the code. That's the most important thing, that you can read the code and relay it to somebody to tell you if it's safe to drive the vehicle or if you should just park it on the side. Joe says, Jim, I still have the box portable ignition system. You still have that, Joe? Damn, you're showing your age too, pal. I don't even think I still have mine. I think I got rid of it, actually. I'm not even too, I don't even remember where it would be. I think I did get rid of it, though. So, Joe, you're telling me you're older than me? I don't know about that. Have a sign, speed limit 65. Fords, do the best you can. That's a pretty good one. I remember talking about that. Fords, do the best you can. Back in the day, we used, back in the 70s, and even in the 60s and on up to the 70s, there was no such thing as like today, where you can do a tune up every 50,000 or 100,000 miles. Back then, it was every 12,000 miles you need to tune up a car. You had to change the plugs, points, and all that kind of stuff because they would just wear out. Um, but I remember Fords; they were notorious for this. Fords, you'd have a Ford, and I remember one in particular I was working on, was a 351 Cleveland motor. Anybody who knows the Fords knows that Cleveland, that's a good motor. And it was a 351, and you get in that car and you take it for a test drive, and it would drive okay, and you would stomp on the gas to accelerate, and that thing would spit and sputter, and it just couldn't get out of its own way. Used to bring it back to the shop, take a bottle of water in a soda bottle, open up the air breather, take the air breather off the car, and you would put your thumb over the bottle of water. You would race the engine up underneath the hood. You would lay down low on the fender, because sometimes it would back pop out of the carburetor and burn your hair off. So you'd have to lay low on the fender. You'd raise the throttle up, the RPMs up to 1,500, 2,000, and you would pour the water down there slowly. Out the back of the car, that water would break up all the carbon on the cylinder, the valves, the spark plugs. It would break up all that carbon and shoot it out the tailpipe, and you have black carbon rings on the floor. And you take that car out, you'd get on it, stomp on it, and it wouldn't hesitate, wouldn't spit, wouldn't wouldn't buck, wouldn't nothing. It ran absolutely perfect. So carbon back on those cars was a big problem. So there you go. You got me started, Bill. And that's because you said Ford, do the best you can. Um, the old MSD box. Oh yeah, you're right. That's what it was. MSD. That's what I don't know what it stood for, but it was the MSD. That's right. And there was something to do where you can use it for points and condensers, and you can use it on all of the high energy, or the HEIs. I was shocked so many times from household current. Yeah, that household current is no joke. The 110 will definitely wake you up. Sarge says, doing okay. Found out about the show. Good. I'm glad you stopped in. I'm glad you stopped in, Joe. But I don't see Vinny here. Is Vinny in here someplace? Oh, he's working on it. Okay. I see it down there. So Vinny probably doesn't have a name. He probably goes into YouTube, but he probably he didn't sign up as a YouTube, with a YouTube name. So Joe, once he does finally sign up and get a YouTube name, tell him to let me know. So I'll keep an eye out for you guys in there. Joe, I hope you guys are doing okay. If you need anything, Joe, you got my cell phone number. You call me anytime, day, night, doesn't matter. And you know, Vinny does. I think I got to text Vinny back. I think he texted me before, but I'm gonna text him later on. And I know I told Vinny, come to think of it, I told Vinny I was gonna talk about that jumpstart box this week, but I'm just running out of time. I usually stay on for an hour, and it's an hour and a half already, so I don't think I'm gonna have time to do anything with the jumpstart box. But next week, I promise you, next week we'll do something with that jumpstart box, and then we'll talk about it. But what's got me intrigued, you know what? We're not going to talk. We'll talk about this next week because I'm going to get started, and we're going to wind up burning up more time. Okay. Oh, new level, Keith. Good to see you. I hope you're doing okay. One of these days, Keith, I'm going to come over to Staten Island, and me and you are going to go out, and you're going to show me what you do every day. I don't know how you do that. Some of the diagnostic stuff that you do, but I'm sorry. I'm just scrolling back. Well, I am going to get over there, Keith, and we're gonna go out for the day. Okay. I don't know what's going on with my computer here today. I touch it and it just goes crazy. I wind up skipping pages and pages of questions. Okay, okay, guys, see, Sarge is here. How do I get one of those launch code readers? I'm computer stupid. I'm old school. Well, unfortunately, the only way you're going to be able to get it, Timothy, and I'm sorry about that, but you're on a computer now. So if you just go on to Amazon, no, you know what? Go down on the bottom of my video. You're going to see down there. It's going to say more. Click on more, and it'll pop up down the bottom. It'll say Launch Code Reader 3001 OBD2 scanner, and there's a link right there. If you click on that link, it'll open up in Amazon, and you can buy it right there. Okay. He's working on it. I did a tune-up back on the 68 Cougar with a 397 hours to change the plugs back in the day. Super Jones 70, you remember that 390. You remember changing those plugs on that right rear, the last two plugs on the right rear. You couldn't get to them. The only way you can get to the plugs on those cars is you had to disconnect the motor mount. You had to jack the engine up to get to the last two spark plugs on there. Back in the day when I used to get a car coming in that had a misfire in it, I knew before I even lifted it up, put it in my shop, or even did any kind of diagnostics whatsoever, I knew that that misfire was going to be in 7 and 8. I knew it. And sure enough, he pulled the plugs out, and they had it tuned up someplace else. He pulled the plug out, and the plug that was in there was still the OEM plug. It was never changed. It's the one that came with the vehicle when it was sold. So the misfire was actually one of the plugs that was probably in there for 30 or 40,000 miles, and it was just past its life expectancy. You'd pull it out, and there would be no electrode. It would be burnt right off. But yes, getting back to that 390 was a bear to get to those. Gerald says, Joe's Auto, I sent you an email. Gerald, you'll like Joe. He's a pretty good guy. Not as good as me, of course, Gerald, but he's not a bad guy. Okay, Stanley says, thank you. I will look, but if you find one, let me know. Okay. Gerald just saw it. What's the exact? Do you need to know? McGee says, I watch Jim and drink beer. You know, once I finish here tonight, I think I'm going to have a beer or two myself. We are here in the future, Jim. That's my buddy. Star, check out this video. You're going to like it. Joe. See, that's what happened, Glenn. You know, I'm up here looking at the stuff up here, and it's popping in down the bottom down there. So you know, I can't read and get to the bottom at the same time. But thank you for pointing that out for me, Glenn. I couldn't get through the night without knowing that. Thank you. I have a 97. It backfires. Okay. Haven't received it yet. My service is slow. McGee 63. Gerald says 1,700 acres of lava beds. Wow, that's a lot. That's a lot. You know, when you're in Hawaii and you go out to those lava, see, Hawaii is constantly growing. That lava, comes out of most of the volcanoes and ultimately winds up finding its way to the shore. And that's every year. There's so many more um, cubic feet or miles or whatever you want to call it of 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 uh, of Hawaii being made by the volcanoes actually coming down to the ocean. Okay, Austin says bomb means it's good, Jim. It's good. It's good. The bomb. Okay, first time I ever heard that. The bomb, huh? Means good. All right, Glenn. I guess you're more up on that stuff. My kid said something to me. Somebody said something to me one time. Okay, thank you. Somebody said something to me one time on YouTube when I first started, and I read it and I said, "Damn!" I said, "That's an insult. Why would this guy say something like that?" And I said, "You know what? Before I respond to it, let me just Google it." And I went up onto Google and I typed it in, and actually, it wasn't an insult. Um, it was actually a very good compliment. So yeah, I didn't know. I think Scotty Kilmer is. I think Scotty Kilmer is usually bombed, so to speak. Scotty's a well. Everybody knows Scotty's quite a character. That's all I'm going to say. Yep, and it took a centrifugal advance and a vacuum advance for total advance. Remember, that's true. You're right. You're right, and you'll also remember, Hayward, that back in the day we used to change just the vacuum advance on there because the vacuum advance would go bad. You would disconnect the vacuum advance, and you'd find out there would be no change between centrifugal advance and the vacuum advance. You have to change the vacuum unit. I used to keep them in stock. I used to do so many of them. We're showing our age, but I do like the older cars. I'm actually thinking about the Mustang. If I could find one that's in decent shape, I might actually pick one up myself. 119. Okay, McGee 6 Jim. I am going to stop by the shop tomorrow. Really need to talk to you. Maximum oil leak. Code reader. Joe's Able Automotive. My cousin still has the old distributor machine at our shop. Wow. Remember those, huh? Okay, this is Steve G5576. Hey, Jim, enjoy your channel. Um, tell him Chuck Wepner was your customer. Yeah, he was actually. Okay, well, I don't know if we're going to have time to talk about that today, but in a long story short, I did have a lot of customers. You know what? We're going to talk about this next week because this just popping in my head. Chuck Wepner was one of my customers. He was a celebrity, as everybody knows. He fought Muhammad Ali back in, I think it was 1975, and he actually knocked Muhammad Ali down. But we're not going to talk about that now. We'll talk about that next week. I just ran out of stuff to talk about. But we're going to talk about next week is some of the celebrity customers that I've had come into my shop. I've had quite a few of them over the years, 42 years. You've seen a lot of people come and a lot of people go. And I'm going to jot them down. We're going to talk about it next week about some of the celebrity people that have come into my shop. Chuck Wepner being one of them, but there's a lot of others that you're going to be surprised that came into my shop. Um, yeah, I'm thinking of quite a few of them now, but we will talk about that next week. So, Steve, we're going to talk about that next week, and I'll tell the story about Chuck Wepner. The Bayonne Bleeder, yep. That was Chuck Wepner's nickname, the Bayonne Bleeder, and everybody knows that the Rocky was actually the movie. That was actually this guy's life. So that's where they came up with the idea of Rocky, and it was based on Chuck Wepner's life. New Level says, "Love you, Jim. Super busy, can't hang out. This guy's always working." Had to pop in and say hello. And Keith, we are definitely going to get together one day. We're gonna, I'm gonna, I'm going to talk to you. I'm going to come over to Staten Island one day, and we're going to hang out over in Staten Island, and I'll buy you lunch if you have time to have lunch. Keith is here or was here. That's true. You're right. He was here and he's gone. That's one guy that's always busy. He works crazy hours too, day, nights, weekends, makes no difference. Knocked down Ali in 14 rounds in 1975. He was my customer. We'll talk about that. I knew him for a long time. I knew him for a long time, but we'll talk about that next week. I think we're running out of time here. We're gonna call it a night. 351W or 351C, right? The W was the Windsor and the C was the Cleveland. The Cleveland was the one you always wanted because the Cleveland had the heads like a Hemi. If you had a regular engine, your valves were all in a line. They were all straight across. When you had the Cleveland motor, it was built like a Hemi. Your valves were actually offset inside this. Your valve cover was much wider, and that was a good motor. They used to actually come with a 4-bolt rear main on some of these things too. Um, just scrolling back. I'm sorry, I touched it and it went crazy. And Joe says to me, "How about the 429?" The 429 was a monster. You couldn't even get a feather in there. It was so tight, that thing. I think we're gonna call it. I'm sorry, I touched this thing and it went crazy again. Keith New Level says, "Got to go through Bayonne to get home. Hopefully the bridge is open then, because the Bayonne Bridge is closed frequently, but I'm sure Keith knows that." Used to work ice chips to clean up the carbon. That's true. Yep, that's true. Anything like that, anything cold, when you got that real cold on the real hot, that carbon would break up and it would come right out. They were saying blow it. That's right. That's where the saying said blow it out came from. I remember, and Glenn, you'll probably remember this too. Back in the day, I think it was probably in the early 70s to late 70s, we used to have a big problem with the Corvettes. They used to have the same problem. They would stumble and, no, wait a minute, no. That's when they first came out with the mass air. When the mass air used to get a little bit dirty, or you had the throttle body used to get carboned up, the Corvettes used to run like crap, and we used to just clean them out. And you wouldn't have to change the plugs or nothing, just clean out the throttle plate, and that thing would run like a bear again. Okay, remember carbon, McGee 63. Chuck Wepner became a liquor salesman. That's true. He did. He did. He worked for a liquor company down in the in New Jersey, actually. Star, how was Keith going? How's it going, Keith? I think Keith is already gone already, though. All right, I'm going to scroll through some of this because I think just too slow here. I'm ordering one now. Grab a beer and quench your thirst. You know what, Glenn? I'm going to actually think I'm going to get 2 beers tonight. Glenn says Jim has no story that is longer than is short. Okay. So we're going to actually, good to see you, Joe. You're a party animal. Nah, Glenn, you know me. I'm a 1, 2 beer kind of guy. That's it. No more than that. Back in the day, it was different. Maybe one day we'll talk about that, actually. Yeah, you know what? Maybe one day we'll talk about back in the day when I used to have the um, the Gran Torino. I used to have the Mustangs. I used to own quite a few Mustangs, but you guys probably don't know. I used to have a lot of different motorcycles at the same time too. And we'll talk about maybe. I'll see if we can talk about next. Okay. Next week we'll talk about the motorcycles. I had a lot of motorcycles over the years, starting out with a Kawasaki 125 and leading all the way on up to a 900. So we'll talk about that, and we'll talk about that maybe next week. Write it down. That's right, Glenn. If I don't write it down, it's going to be gone. Uh, Glenn says, "I'm the guy now, Jim, but it's a 3 Corvettes in my garage." I think that's all you could fit in your garage from what I saw in the picture, Glenn. I think you either got to get a bigger house or a bigger garage. I will tell you this. I had one of my customers one time. He bought a house, a very, very nice house, and he built a garage onto the guy had a lot of money. He was something to do with Wall Street in New York, and he had a very, very nice house, and he built a warehouse onto the back of his house to keep his cars in. And one day we'll talk about those cars too. This guy had cars like mint condition cars that you would die for. And long story short, he was playing the game and he got caught and he lost every one of them. Ah, Joe, you know what? Joe, yeah, I'm gonna talk to you during the week. If it's okay with you, I'm gonna tell that story. Apartment hunting on a motorcycle. I'm gonna talk to you during the week. You know what, Joe? If you could just send me, if it's okay, I'll tell that story next week. This is a good one. You guys are gonna kick out of this. Hell yeah, okay. All right, next week, Joe, I'm gonna tell that story, okay? Now you guys are looking at that saying, what's he talking about? But wait till you see next week. This is how long I know Joe for. So we'll talk about that next. We're not going to say anything more about motorcycles and apartment hunting and all that kind of stuff. So we'll talk about that next week. I think next week. Oh, wait a minute. Next week is Memorial Day weekend. I don't know if I'm going to do it next weekend. I probably will. I don't know if I'm going to be able to cover everything next week because now I got so much stuff here that I want to cover next week. I don't know if I'm going to have enough time. So it may have to be a 2-hour show. So, which is just about turning out to be a 2-hour show right now anyway. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, we're going to tell that story. Um, KZ 900 was a good bike. I bought it back. The KZ 1000. Yeah, there was a friend of mine one time. He had that bike. It was the 1000. No, I'm sorry, it wasn't. It was the 1100. Um, the guy, he was a motorcycle mechanic, and he bought the bike from somebody who went down. Somebody bought the bike, left his place, went down about maybe a mile or two down the road and wiped out with the bike. Came back and said he didn't want the bike anymore. He couldn't drive it. My friend bought the bike, redid the whole thing. He's up in my shop one day, and the 1100 was a big bike. It was heavy. So if you're sitting on that bike and you took the kickstand off and you started to lean just a little bit, chances are if you weren't ready for it, you were going to go down. Well, this one guy came into my shop, a very good friend of mine, worked for me for a long time. You remember me telling you last week about the Roadrunner story? Well, this guy owned that Roadrunner. So he wasn't afraid of speed or anything like that. He was like a wild man too. Got on the bike, sat on the bike, kicked up the kickstand, and just leaned a little bit too far and couldn't pull that bike back up. The bike went over and pinned him under it. That was my 1100 story. Okay. Okay. So I think we're gonna call it a night there. But I do want to ask you guys one question now. I always give you a question at the end of the show. So I'm going to give you this question here first, and let's see what anybody says. Um, Bill from HI. I'm hoping that's Hawaii. I think I remember talking to Bill once before. Hope everything is well if that's where you're from, Bill. Um, okay, this is the question. And this is, I think last week we ended off with the one we ended off with last week was the Chevy SS 409, right? So now this is the question. This is the question I'm going to present to you. What's the only car to appear simultaneously on the cover of Time and Newsweek? What car? What's the only car to appear simultaneously on the cover of the Times and the and sorry Times and Newsweek? Star Mustang. Did you hack into my computer here? You guys came up with that answer so easy. Oh my God, everybody got it. Except Eddie. Eddie, you're wrong. Eddie says a Corvair. It was the Mustang. That's very good. You guys got it right away. Glenn, you're right on the ball. That was pretty quick. I think you must have hacked into my computer and saw what I'm doing here. That's what I think. Okay, first on race day. Yeah, there you go. Okay. Okay, Oslo says I'm All-Star, the gym guy. the car, All-Star, the car guy. There you go. That's the new slogan for you. There you go. Okay. And Newsweek. Yep. Yep. The Times and Newsweek. And the one I'm looking at the picture here, I used to own this car. It was actually a 65, or they call it a 64 and a half Mustang. And this is the one that I used to own, except this one in the picture is white. The one I used to have, the one I bought, it was black. And I probably told you this story already, but back in the day, this car here, back then Mustangs, everybody had them. Nobody really, it wasn't a collector's item like it is today. And I had this Mustang, and I redid the Mustang. I put in whatever I had to do to it. I don't remember exactly what I did, but I know I painted the car black. It was black, and I painted it black. I painted the whole car. It came out perfect. I put it outside underneath my sign for sale, and the sign, meaning the Exxon sign, when it was out there, people knew the car was for sale. I put the car outside there, and it sat there for, I don't know, a while. It didn't sell. And one day it was slow in the shop, and I'm thinking, boy, I was surprised the car didn't sell. And I thought about it, and I said, "You know what? Let me pull the car back inside, and I'm gonna put 2 racing stripes on it." I pulled the car back inside the shop, and I put 2 white racing stripes from the hood onto the roof and then down the trunk. And I joke about this all the time, and I said that, the paint didn't even dry, and I sold the car just by putting those 2 stripes on the car. I put the car outside, and within a short period of time, that car was gone. That's another car that I should have kept. That was a '65, and I don't remember what size motor was in it. I'm thinking it probably was an 8-cylinder because I didn't really buy the 6-cylinder cars. The only ones I bought was the V8s. So, but that was my '65 Mustang. My 2 favorite cars, the '65 and the '67. Well, '67 to '68 is the exact same car anyway, but that's it. All right, I think we're gonna call it a night. We do have a lot of stuff we're gonna cover next week. We are going to talk about that Jumpstart box. I think I showed it to you last week. There's a couple of things I want to talk about with that box there. I did talk to the company. They're going to also send me a link for a discount on it. Um, I did a little bit more research on the box to find out how it works. So we'll talk about that next week. We're going to talk about the motorcycles I used to have next week. We're going to talk about the apartment hunting on a motorcycle. We're going to talk about that one. And I got 3 pages of other stuff here that I was hoping to get to tonight, and I just actually ran out of time, and I just started talking and lost track of the time. All right, so I think what we're going to do now is we're going to call it a night. Hope everybody had a good time, and if anybody has anything we want to talk about, you can send me an email. We'll talk about it. If you send me an email during the week and say that you would like to talk to me on the live stream, I will absolutely print that out, and I will talk to you next week on the live stream so that you know what's going on and we can communicate back and forth like that. Um, that's it. Anybody has any other questions or wants to talk about anything, you send me an email. A lot of you guys have my cell phone number. You can call me on my cell phone, text me, whatever. All right. As always, thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. I think it's probably around 9 o'clock now or something like that. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. I know the big weekend is coming up next week. We have a 3-day weekend, so enjoy yourself. And it's the beginning, the official start of the summer season. So, all right, thanks for watching. And next week we'll have a different Hawaiian shirt on. I'm not going to tell you what it's going to be. We may have to go back to the old ones, or we're going to have something else. So we'll see how it goes. All right, as always, thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Thanks again, everybody.